In this goal, we're going to be looking at water and its unique properties. Water covers 75% of the Earth's surface and is very important to all life on Earth. Our own cells are mostly made of water. Water has very unique properties because of its polarity and also its hydrogen bonding. Here's a picture of water's hydrogen bonding. As you can see, by the oxygen portion of the molecule, it's a little bit negative, and by the hydrogen portion, it's a little bit positive. And the hydrogen bonding occurs between the hydrogen of one molecule and the oxygen of another. So this is the hydrogen bonding right here. So the properties of water that we're going to discuss are cohesion, adhesion, high specific heat, high heat of vaporization, density anomaly, and also that water is the universal solvent. So first of all, cohesion. Cohesion is the attraction of water to another water molecule. And this is due in water to the hydrogen bonding. So this causes surface tension. So we see a spider in the lower left-hand corner can support its body weight on the surface tension of the water. When you look at the surface tension, you see that right above the water molecule, there is just air. And so there's no hydrogen bonding between the air and the water. So water is clinging to itself. This results in an overall downward force and creates a curved surface on the top of the water. Here are some other pictures showing cohesion. So we have water droplets on a leaf, and you can see how they beat up. And then here is a child that's skipping rocks on the surface of the water on that surface tension. And then we have some leaves floating on that surface tension of the water, and even a lizard that can walk on water on that surface tension. He moves fast enough that the lizard is able to support its own weight. Here's another picture showing this cohesion of water molecules sticking to other water molecules. Adhesion is the attraction of water to something that's not water. So again, cohesion is when it's stuck to itself, but adhesion is when water clings to another surface. And this happens in the lab in our graduated cylinders because water sticks to glass. It makes a meniscus, which means that the water clings on the sides and will climb up the glass. Here's a picture on the left of some colored water. You can see how the water has climbed the glass. And on the right, this is mercury. Mercury does not have this adhesion with the glass. It only clings to itself. And so you can see how it curves up. Capillary action is a combination of cohesion and adhesion. And they work together, and this is how water can climb up thin tubes. If you stick a narrow tube into water, you can see that it will climb up. And the thinner it is, then the more pull the water will have. It'll be able to climb up higher. This is how plants are able to get water up from their roots to their tissues. So the water will cling to itself, and it will also cling to the sides of the plant tissue. And through both of this process, this capillary action, the water can climb up the plant. Here's a picture that shows the cells in a tree that shows how water can cling to those cells as it climbs up the tree. So this is the cohesion, water sticking to water, and then also the adhesion where you have water sticking to the sides of those cells. Water also has what's called high specific heat, and this is due to the hydrogen bonding. It can absorb or release large amounts of heat when those hydrogen bonds are broken or formed, with only a slight change in its own temperature. And so if you live next to a large body of water, this helps to regulate the land's temperature. So there won't be wild swings of hot and cold because the large body of water moderates things. So living next to an ocean or a large lake, this will help minimize temperature fluctuations. And also As our bodies are mostly made of water, this also helps us regulate our own body temperature. Water also has what's called high heat of vaporization. So it's very difficult for water molecules to evaporate or boil. So it really takes a lot of energy. So with boiling, the hydrogen bonding has to completely break. And so a lot of heat or a lot of energy has to be put into those water molecules vibrating fast enough that they can spring apart and break away from each other and break that hydrogen bonding. With evaporation, remember evaporation only occurs on the surface of liquids. Those water molecules that have a lot of kinetic energy, they will leave the surface of the water just through their jostling and collisions, and they'll be able to break free. And when they do this, those hotter or more energy water molecules are taken away, and this leaves the cooler ones behind. So you get what's called evaporative cooling. And this also works with us when we get overheated, we start sweating, and as that sweat evaporates off, it ends up taking that heat with it. So this is a part of our strategy to stay cool. Water is very unique in that it has as its most dense phase liquid. So liquid is the most dense phase. So ice floats basically is this density anomaly. And this is because of the hydrogen bonding. With the hydrogen bonding, it makes a crystal lattice that causes the water molecules to be a little bit further apart than a liquid. So here is ice on the left-hand side, and on the right, this is water. And so you can see that the water molecules are just a little bit closer together. When solid water is formed, then that ice forms a crystal lattice that makes it less dense than liquid water. Here's just a picture illustrating this. So these are not both water. The one on the right is benzene with frozen benzene, and you can see that most substances, their solids are the most dense, and so their solids will sink in their liquids. So this density anomaly is very important to life on Earth. Imagine, if you will, ice sinking. So if you had a large lake, as the ice would form on the surface, it would quickly sink to the bottom, and pretty soon that lake would be filled up with ice. And when summer came around, if the lake was really, really deep, it wouldn't be able to thaw out. And so it would stay ice permanently. And so eventually the surface of the earth would just be, all the water would be frozen and not be able to melt because it's so deep. With ice floating, this protects the creatures that live in lakes and the oceans. And so even if ice forms at the surface, they will be protected at the bottom and be able to still survive. And the last thing with water is the universal solvent, and this is because it is polar. So its polar ends are able to pull apart salts or ionic substances. And remember, the oxygens, which are a little bit negative, they will surround the positive cations, and the hydrogens, which are a little bit positive, they will surround the anions or negative ions, and they will pull a salt apart.